When we left the country, we were leaving, we were in the car, we were going to the airport, bombs were falling everywhere, and my mom was screaming. I remember that. And that was kind of like really the only vision that I really have. I mean, I have other memories of being there, but like as the leaving part of it was kind of traumatic. I remember that part of it. And then I kind of really start having a better, more vivid memory of like things afterwards. But in the summers, when it wasn't crazy, we would go to Lebanon. My mom would we would actually go overseas and visit the families and stuff. And so that was awesome growing up as a child, having my summers there, because the Mediterranean there is beautiful. You've got the mountains. It is a beautiful country. The people are amazing, the most hospitable, resilient. It's really bad that they get so much bad media and bad rap for, being a terroristic country. And there's a lot of that nonsense that happens there, obviously. But generally, the people are very welcoming, very warm. They love life. I've never seen a culture who's gone through so many tragedies that can actually rebuild their country and still be happy and still live life. Sometimes, their economy has fallen. They've had massive explosions. They've had all kinds of things happen. So much happens there. But then you see the people are still living, and it's wow.
First of all, totally want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for joining in to the On Target for Success podcast. And one way that you're really helping us is not only by watching, but if you could do us the favor so that we can reach more women and help more women, if you could please subscribe, share. Those things are huge in terms of YouTube. And that is the thing that's going to help us reach more women worldwide. So let me thank you. I know you're a busy woman, but by taking time to just hit that little like button and subscribe, you are doing your part in serving women globally. And I can't thank you enough. Again, I'm so excited. I'm particularly excited today. Ladies, the On Target for Success podcast is going to blow your mind today. The guest that I have on here, we were just speaking before we hit the record button, and I'm like, we got to stop because she's so freaking awesome. And I don't even want to edit it. You're just going to love her. You're going to want to mush her up like I am. And she is so diverse. She is so filled with love and passion that I love my life. I love what this podcast stands for, about bringing women together, inspiring, uplifting, encouraging one another. You're going to see things in her that you have in you. Her story is so powerful, and she's just going to inspire you to take the action that you need. There's no accident that you're seeing this episode today. So without further ado, because I'm so excited, I know we're going to be here for a while because I just can't help it. Nisrine Marsi. I just was playing with her name, and I'm like, okay, wait. Nisrine Marsi? Yes, Amy Emmy. And she's with Movers Dispatch Force. So you guys, even while you're at home watching and it's quiet, you can clap because that's how cool she is. So welcome, girl.
That is the most amazing introduction ever. So I have to give you an award for that.
Oh, thank you. Well, seriously, it is such a blessing. And what I want to talk about, what we were talking about a little bit before we hit record, because in our business, On Target for Success, my business partner is Muslim. I'm Christian. She is a brainiac. She's my IT queen, Aliza. And I'm the yacker. And we love working together. And we get the giggles. And we love learning about each other's culture. And my husband was Lebanese. So I have 3 beautiful, half German, half Lebanese children. And when I said that, you said, uh-oh, because I'm like, what is your name? Tell everybody real quick where your name is from and a little bit about you, because it is inspiring.
So, okay. So if we talk about my name, the origin of the name Nisrine is actually Farsi. It's Persian. Really? So that's a very common name. That's kind of the origin of the name, but it's very common in the Middle Eastern countries, as well as Lebanon. So I am originally Lebanese. Was born there, and
in what city? Where were you born in Lebanon?
I was actually born in Beirut, believe it or not.
That's so.
Yes,
well, okay, wait a second. I'm just gushing on Lebanon a little bit. I'm so sad what's happening right now, or what's some different, there's all different world conflicts everywhere. but just in Beirut, like, because my mother-in-law always told me, like, like the Lebanon, the cedars, it used to be like the jewel of the Middle East, and she made me all these like kibbeh, mjadra, all the like really
Oh
yummy.
my gosh, my favorites.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love Lebanese food. I think I got tabbouleh in my fridge right now. And
Yum.
just make me like get so excited about the country and their culture. And like my sister-in-law is like a belly dancer, and I like I love the culture of Lebanon and the commitment to family. And they were Maronite Catholics. We were talking a little bit. So pretty cool. Not to interrupt you, but so you're from Beirut. They were from like I2. Have you heard of I2?
From where?
I2, I think they were closer to the mountains, like up in the mountain.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of it, but that doesn't mean that, I grew up in the States, so I'm sure it's a small town that I haven't heard of, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, right. So, okay. So you have a Persian name. You're born in
Yes,
Lebanon, and
yes,
the story gets cooler. Tell us a little bit about your family.
yes. Okay, so I know that was what really got you going here. So
It's a
my background's really pretty interesting, but yes, I was born in Lebanon, and I always like to share this with people because it's very kind of just different and out there. I grew up. Um, my mom is Maronite Catholic, and my dad is Muslim, and they were both Lebanese. When they got married, they eloped because my mom's family was very Catholic, and my dad's family was maybe not super Muslim, but they were they were Muslim, just not very conservative,
but
but.
that just shows you
But
that's
they were marrying outside of their faith, and back then that just didn't happen. So, and especially in Lebanon, because marriage is by the church, not by the state. So when you get
oh,
married, you have to have a religious, you know,
affiliation.
yes. So, for example, you have to be the same faith to be able to be married. So if you're Catholic, you have to both be Maronite Catholic, or you can't be like Roman Catholic or Orthodox and get married. Like it's actually pretty strict to get married there. So but my parents made it happen. They eloped, they got married, and had 3 children. So there are 3 of us here, and so I kind of grew up in a really cool upbringing. We were really raised Catholic because my mom was very, very kind of more of the strong one in the family. So that's kind of what happened in our household, which is typically not common. Like in Middle Eastern families, usually the men are the one running the house, but my mom ran the house growing up. So um but yeah, so we kind of grew up Catholic, but it was cool because we got to see the Muslim side too. So when holidays and stuff happened, like we got to see every holiday. And that's the cool thing about Lebanon is that it's a country that celebrates really all religions. So if you live and work there, you're celebrating every holiday. It doesn't matter. So if you're Christian, you're getting all the Muslim holidays too. If you're Muslim, you're getting the Christian holidays. So like everyone's off for Christmas, everyone's off for the Ramadan or like the Muslim holidays and stuff. So you get double the holidays. That's a great place to be an employee. Double holidays. So
Aw.
not bad at all. But I was born there. We moved to France when I was 6 years old. We lived in southern France for a little bit. Yeah, my mom didn't care for France very much. We spoke French, being Lebanese, everyone learns French typically in Lebanon. So it was an easy transition to go there during the Civil War. So we went there first, thinking we were going to go back, but we never were able to go back.
Well,
So
what year was that? Because talk a little bit about that. Like, what's that?
80s. It was like the early 80s.
Really? So you're like uprooted. So you're this little girl. Like, what was your kind of paint us the picture? Because I never got to. I've been to Israel, but I haven't made it to like Lebanon. So I'm always like in my.
So I've been back since then, but my childhood memory, the one memory I remember that I can kind of vividly remember is when we left the country. We were leaving, we were in the car, we were going to the airport, bombs were falling everywhere, and my mom was screaming. I remember that. And that was kind of like really the only vision that I really have. I mean, I have other memories of being there, but like as the leaving part of it was kind of traumatic. I remember that part of it, and then I kind of really start having a better, more vivid memory of like things afterwards. But in the summers, when it wasn't crazy, we would go to Lebanon. My mom would we would actually go overseas and visit the families and stuff. And so that was awesome growing up as a child, having my summers there because the Mediterranean there is beautiful. You've got the mountains. It is a beautiful country. The people are amazing, the most hospitable, resilient. It's really bad that like they get so much bad media and bad rap for, being a terroristic country. And there's like a lot of that nonsense that happens there, obviously. But generally, like the people are very welcoming, very warm. They love life.
Yes.
I've never seen a culture who's gone through so many tragedies that can actually rebuild their country and still be happy and still live life. Sometimes, like their economy has fallen, they've had massive explosions, they've had all kinds of things happen. Like so much happens there, but
Mhm.
then you see the people are still like living, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, the
Even
most amazing. I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but they do.
is your father's family there as well?
No, my mother's family mostly lives there and between there and Canada, but my father's family all lives in Texas. So most of my Lebanese cousins are all born in Texas, so uh
They y'all Lebanese people saying y'all.
yeah, we do say all we do
I
say all, but
love the Lebanese culture. Like, and when I had like my baby shower, my wedding, like my husband's family was so huge and loving and kind, and yeah, I can attest to that.
I
Just
have so many family members. From my dad's side of the family, there's 36 first cousins. So
that
just first cousins, and my kids are shocked because they're like, "What, mom? You
yeah.
have 36 cousins? We have 4." Some of them I don't even know, but yeah,
It's
that's just on
it's
my
great.
dad's side, so it's a huge family.
It's so great to have a huge family. I wish I had more children. Like my husband was number 14 of 17. So my kids are like your kids. They're like, well, my kids have like you. They have 100 something first cousins. It's insane. It's so wonderful, isn't it? Though that much love.
It's amazing. I'll tell you what, even though we don't all stay close, but I could pick up the phone and call one, even if I hadn't talked to them in 2 years or a year and say, "Hey, I need your help." They would be there in a minute. So the
Well,
family's really close. They're always there. If something
aw,
happens, everyone really kind of just gets together. And so you kind of always know that they're there, even though we're so big and everyone's so scattered doing their own thing and living their life. It's hard to, um, stay together like super close all the time.
yes, yes, yes. Well, I want to go back because this is so. I love the culture. I love. Um, this is such good food for my soul. But when we go back and you're like, okay, I'm just trying to picture you as this little girl going from, your life in Lebanon. I can't even imagine. Like, I think about people in the world right now, where there's bombs being dropped and just the resilience, like you said, and there's all different kinds of things that we have to overcome in life, right? And we have those choices. But then how do you go from your cute little what was it like then going into a French school? Because it's such a different culture, right?
Oh yeah, but the Lebanese culture is kind of very diverse and very international. They don't really live in a bubble, so they immerse into any culture, and wherever you put them, there's Lebanese people everywhere, and they just kind of blend into society most of the time. So I don't really remember that being an issue for me as a child. I was more of an issue for my mom, but for her, in her defense, like she's someone who had to leave her home and her country and everything she knew and go to somewhere that was completely new. So that must have been really hard on her. So when we ended up coming to the States, into Texas, we actually had family that lived here.
Oh,
So I think it was easier for her. And so it's hard. I mean, I can't imagine having to pick up, with 3 children, move to another country because your home is being, your country's at war. So you're having to just pick up on a whim with no real planning. It's not like, oh hey, we're just gonna move to France. This is gonna be great. We researched a house, did our research. This is like we're fleeing because we don't get out of here, we're gonna be dead. So
right?
so
And
yeah.
maybe talk I know this is a little bit of a detour, but like it's firsthand experience, right? Like I really think about what's happening in the world right now and how you can take that pain and, bring in that survivalist gene and not let anything stop you, right? Because in different ways,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think in different ways we're all in survival mode. Now we don't have bombs dropping around, but maybe we have political ideologies that feel like bombs dropping around,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Or religious ideologies, or anytime we take things to extremes, then it's mental illness. And if we
Absolutely.
let love be the religion, right? And the human be the race, instead of like going on extremes. If the belief brings out the best in you to serve humanity, then I say go for it. But if it somehow shrinks you and what you can be, because having a Muslim, because my dad was given up for adoption, similar thing, but because his mom was Jewish and his dad was Christian, and they weren't
Oh,
allowed in those days to get married. That was in the 50s here in the United States. And when I think love is the strongest thing that we can have, how can we all love on one another? How can we all bring out the best with that love and seek
yeah,
understanding?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think that any extreme form of anything is not good. It doesn't matter what that is, whether it be, religion, politics, food. It could just be
yes,
as simple as someone's food. If you eat too many Snicker bars, or whatever, if you
guilty.
drink too many sodas, if you drink too much juice, if you, eat too many apples, I don't know about apples, but, if you do anything, too much of
Oh,
anything, extreme in any form of anything, no matter what it is, whether it be, alcohol, cigarettes, I don't know, whatever, too many
mhm.
pizzas, whatever that may be, too much work, too much fun, too much of anything is not good. So you kind of have to try to kind of have a good balance just generally with anything in life.
Well, and I think, those are the things that form, like going back. The reason I like to start with my guest in the beginning, like where you came from, because those initial things that form us, those fires and trials that we go through, right, builds up that stick to it muscle, that overcomer, inside of us. And it's like one thing we mentioned too, like you said you were married. And do you mind sharing what religion your husband was? You can say pass and we can edit it out, but it's so inspiring.
So he was Jewish. So, and that was really interesting because I find myself to be very similar to my mom in a way, which is really funny because growing up, the last thing anyone wants to do is be like their mom, right? You were always, growing up thinking, I want to be nothing like this person. But then it's just like, oh, wait, I have a lot of similarities. And so she kind of went outside of her religion. But I grew up in a household that was very liberal. So I really am pretty liberal as far as that goes. So I do believe in love first, and I'm not an extremist in any form on any one view, whatever that may be. I respect people's opinions. I may not share the same opinion, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We're not all going to share or agree on the same thing. As long as learn how to respect people's opinion and understand that some people see things in a different view than you do, and that's okay to do that. We don't all have to see things eye to eye, and I don't have to live the life that you think I should, or vice versa. But for me, it was more about love than all of the additional extras, and it was about respecting one another for you, our own beliefs, right?
Yes.
And so one thing that was really big when we were married is when we initially got married is like, okay, are you going to become Jewish? And I was like, oh, no, 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 I can't do that, you know? And it wasn't more so of like staying true to who I was
Mhm.
and not being what someone else wanted me to be, right? So
Yeah.
it wasn't about someone else. It was about what I believed in, and not that I didn't respect that or respect his religion, because I obviously do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been with that person. But having respect for one another is really important. And I respected his views on religion, and I respect my own views on religion, and I don't feel that I had to change that for someone. So it's kind of like in the episode of Sex and the City where Charlotte, changes her religion and becomes Jewish when she, it's just like, okay, that's cute and all. It worked for her, but for me, that was just no. It was like, okay, that changes the person who I am. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of my upbringing and who my family was, and that shaped me to become the person I am today.
Absolutely. I love the tolerance in your voice and like how do you teach respect? Because I was thinking about this the other day when I was like honor your mother and father, because there's some certain people that maybe didn't have the best mothers, but they still have found a way to like take care of them as they age or different things like that. I had an incident with a friend and I was discussing that. And then I was talking about how the next generation has more of a belief, like, well, mom, why didn't you do it for yourself? You know what I mean? They're a little bit more still in that me state. And maybe as they get older, I'm just around 20 somethings and I watch, I think maybe I was that way when I was 20 and I forgot too. But I was asking my friend, I'm like, how do you teach kids, or, that desire to want to take care of others, that servant's heart, or it's interesting. It's just when everybody has such strong beliefs, their way is right. How do we, in your experience, because it's beautiful how you grew up with multiple religions, how did you guys, what's one thing that you practiced maybe to find that peace and tolerance, even if you may not 100% disagree? Like, did you ever have a fun little thing like we agree to disagree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love debates.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love debating.
me too.
I obviously have like my own views on certain things, but as far as like general, it was really hard to say like what do I think is right and what do I think is wrong. I don't really know. I'm not the answer to all. I don't know what's right and wrong. People have to kind of choose that for themselves. So what works for one person may not work for someone else. So
Amen.
I personally see things that way. People may not agree with me, and that's okay. But so for me, with my own children, that's the only children I can speak because those are the only children that I've raised. So I feel like I've done a really good job. My children know the whole family heritage. They know all of the, everything that's involved in our heritage. And I've kind of let them decide, and I haven't pushed one thing on them either. And kind of just let them decide how they want to live their life and how what journey they decide to take.
Mm, that's so
So
beautiful. That's so beautiful. I really believe it's a gift. That's like when you travel to, like, I lived in Germany for a couple of years and was blessed to get to travel all around, and I've traveled to other countries. And that's why I think the beauty of travel, when you get that exposure, that wow, these people are really enjoying their life and they believe completely different than I do. And this, in Asia you can eat crickets and it's good. And we would never think about eating crickets. And
yeah.
it's good.
Absolutely. It's important to travel. It's very important to travel. I think everyone should travel and get out of I love our country. Like our country is amazing. So for me, the US is my country and is my home. This is where I grew up. This is how I feed my children. This is home for me.
Mhm.
So but I think it's a great to expose, like I've exposed my children to other cultures and other countries, and they've traveled the world. They've been to a lot of countries, and it's important because I see how they respect people. And you said about respect and how do you teach children to respect? Well, they learn that from you as an example, as their parent, as a role model. Or maybe it's not the parent, maybe it's someone else, whoever's raising them or whoever their role model is in life. So but that's basically how my children have learned respect is through watching me respect other people for who they are and with the exposure I've given them to the outside world.
Do you have like a funny thing that your kids said, like when you were traveling in different countries, that surprised you how they see it through kids' eyes?
Well, you know what? It's really funny because they all tell me they want to live overseas one day, and I'm not really sure why they want to. I've shared funny stories with them because after graduating high school, I actually moved to Lebanon and lived in Lebanon for a year. And
Wow.
that was really great. That was like one of the best experiences that I've had as an adult, living over there for a year. It got me to really like love the country and be more exposed in it, on a day-to-day level versus, vacationing there. So I really love that. And I tell my kids, you should appreciate, having electricity 24 hours a day where, at the time of living there, they have rolling blackouts. So you may be
Wow.
taking a shower and then all of a sudden, the lights go out, or you're in the middle of a blowout at home and you're blowing out your hair and the power runs out and you've only blow dried half your hair.
Really? Wow, what is that? See, I haven't experienced that before.
So, those are things that, can happen in other countries that, that we take for granted here. And
Mhm.
sometimes people take for granted the American dream. It's called the American dream for a reason, and that's because it actually really exists in this country. And sometimes people don't see it when they're here, but it's like, okay, you need to leave for a little bit,
Yes.
and see what's happening outside of our country and then come back and tell me that this isn't the greatest place to be.
Agree. And we have a saying here on Target for Success. We always say, be the solution. Like, like I believe that we were sent, that I have a little whiteboard over here that says you're in the right place at the right time. Because I believe that honestly, like I was born at this time to do good, to bloom where I'm planted. And I think I can't complain. I have to be the solution. And every single woman that comes through our courses or comes through, our tagline is always be the solution. No complainers, no victims. We are not victims to our circumstance. We get to be victorious. As a result of that pain, we get to find some kind of gain, that tool, that nugget that we were gifted by going through that. Like, I was just thinking when you said blackouts, like my friend Luisa took me to Nicaragua. That's where she grew up. And she's like, oh, I forgot to tell you when we're on the way there, we only have cold showers. And I was like, what? She's like, and he's trying to reframe it. It was so cute. She's like, oh yeah, but it feels really good in the summer, during the hot of the day. That's something I never got. Cold showers. I would say like 5 out of the 10 times I'll think like, oh, thank you for my hot shower, But coming back to that American dream, look at what my cup says. That's so cute. Dream.
I love it. Yes.
It's just wild. But thank you for saying that, because yeah, when you get to see what other people, they're just the daily struggle, right? And here, when people don't take advantage of that, that's probably where I get frustrated. I'm like, come on, get up off your butt. If you want it, you can get it. So let's go there. Were your parents entrepreneurs? Just a quick question.
Yes, absolutely. So I love sharing my story and my journey, which I haven't shared that a whole lot in a lot of the podcasts that I've done. But so I grew up in a home with both parents being entrepreneurs, right? So we moved to the U.S. and I have to tell everyone this, that when we initially moved here, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. This was my dad stayed overseas for a little bit, but we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with my mom. So it was my mom and 3 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment. My kids don't know anything about that life because my kids never lived in an apartment or in a 1-bedroom apartment. They obviously, but let me tell you, this woman was probably the strongest woman that I know in my, whole entire life. She is an entrepreneur, 100%, the most hardest working person that I know. She actually works for me with one of my companies, and she brought 3 kids to this country with literally like nothing and built a business, and then eventually my dad came out here and then he started his own business too. But they both own their own businesses. My mom was a seamstress and she opened up a dress shop. We sold wedding gowns and bridesmaid dresses and had like tuxedo rentals. So every little girl's dream was to work and see all the beautiful brides, growing up. So that's who her clients were. So she would sew bridesmaid dresses sometimes, or wedding gowns. She would make them and stuff, other than the ones that she sold there. And my dad was a mechanic and had his own garage. So, but after school, we had a job. We did not get to go home after school. We went home. You had to pick a place. You either were working at the garage, wiping tools, answering phones, the best ability. I don't know if I would have my 10-year-old kids trying to answer phones, but these parents did.
Yeah.
Or we were ripping out stitches at her store, or helping her sew things up, or helping measure. And so we always worked. We always had to work.
Yeah.
So I've been working since I can remember. So those skills were instilled in me, the hard work from childhood, really, because that's what we did. And so eventually, my mom got older. She moved overseas. She had a store there and decided that she was going to come work for me. So, which was great because it was role reversal. I worked for her growing up. Now she's working for me. Yeah. And my dad sold his businesses too, and then now works for my sister and her husband, who have a car dealership. So he works for them part-time, just kind of keeps them going, keeps them busy. But they were the entrepreneurs. That's what they did. They worked hard and they instilled that hard work into us and to me. So that's kind of how the beginning of my learning to be a business owner, learning how to manage money, which let me tell you, I learned this is a funny story. My mom had gone overseas to Lebanon and she left me in charge of her shop. And I was in high school. I think I was a junior or sophomore in high school. So I was in charge. And I spent all her money from the cash register. She came back. She was like, "You're not supposed to spend the money." And I was like, "Well, whoopsie," But she did leave a high school kid, her own daughter, in charge of things. But I was in trouble for that one. But But really, honestly, I knew eventually one day I would own a business. I
Mm.
would be in business for myself, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had so many interests and so
Oh,
many passions and liked so many different things. And so that is kind of like the journey of like knowing and eventually finding out where I would fall into place into life and kind of where I'm at now.
what were what were some of, because a lot of times when women sign up for my course, like, because it's wisdom conversion, so I'm like, just like you're like making my mouth water in the happiest place, because there's so many likes and interests that you have, and they're like, well, what would I create as a business? I'm like, give me an hour, I'll have 5 businesses ready for you, or because life experiences and that wisdom, you have so much that you can be the solution for somebody else, right? It's just getting clarity, because girls a lot of times they're like, well, I don't know what to do, it's just me, right? And they don't even see how amazing and beautiful that they are. It's just what they do, it's just what they've done. But compared to what other people have done, they're just mind-blowing. They've already lived, like you, 5 lives in one lifetime. And so I love to see that, like, that you're sharing this story where you're like, I don't know what I do. I have so many interests, right? I didn't really like set out and say, oh, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up, or, you just kind of kept doing the things that were interesting to you. It sounds like. Tell me some of the things you did before 2003, before you started the you know,
So before 2003, I worked for my first real job was I worked for a concrete company that did precast walls, a precast wall system. And so
yeah,
I worked for them in sales and I
cool.
did that for a few years. And then I left them and went to a third party logistics company. I haven't had a lot of jobs, outside of my own career. I'm talking to you, I'm in my 20s here. These are two jobs I had. I went from the concrete place to the third party logistics company out in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So I went into their office wanting to do sales, and they did not hire me to do sales. I wanted to do sales, but I did not fit the profile that they were looking for. So they were like, well, we have a position for you. We'll put you in customer service. And I thought, okay, oh, really? Customer service? No problem. Fine. I'll take whatever you want to give me. Just get me in the door. I'll work my way up.
There's
And
a
I did.
there's like another golden tip, right? Like,
Yes,
you just said yes. You didn't get like, well, I want this. You're like, okay, this is what's in front of me. I'll do it. I love that.
I said, okay, fine, no problem. Fine, I'll do it. I'll go in and do whatever you want me to do. So I went in and did it, but I was overqualified for the position.
Mhm.
It just I know my skill set and I knew I was overqualified for that position. I still, did it. I think it was maybe like 6 months into the position, I moved into another role and then I moved into another role and I just kept moving around into all these roles to try to fit into where I was going to work for them. And eventually I went to them and I said, I'm starting my own business, so I have to cut my hours down to part time. So at that time, it was with my ex husband, and we were going to start our own business, which is Condor Moving Systems. And I was going to do sales, exactly what I was meant to do. So I'm the world's greatest sales lady ever. And so I started doing sales for Condor, and I knew nothing about the moving and storage business, but I was going to learn, and it didn't really matter. I didn't know anything, but I figured it out
Wait,
21 years
other one.
later.
You go so fast, but there's so many gold nuggets in what you're saying. Here, this is what women do. This is the thing that I always hear about. I'm like, they just brush over their greatness. And I'm like, let me pause you. Because they're just like, someone got upset with me and they're like, you really need to quote your sources when you say this and this. I don't remember where I read this, but I found it so interesting. I talked about it in another podcast, was that women, they underplay a lot of times what they do. And like, if there's a job and there's a man and a woman going for it and they have the same skill set, but they don't necessarily have the skill set that the job requires, 98% of the women won't even try for it, but 98% of the men will. Even though they don't have the skill set, the men they're trained to go for it, right? But I love, because I want to totally change that in women. And I love how you said, I wasn't really sure, but I was willing to learn and go for it. I'm paraphrasing what you
Absolutely. I think in life you have to be a risk taker. I've always been a risk taker. I've
said.
always liked to take risks, just to see what's going to happen,
But
So
how do you get that? Because like even my mom, she'll be like, Amy, I would not have the courage to do what you do. And I'm like, To me, that doesn't feel like courage. And when I tell people, they're like, oh, yeah, I couldn't do that. How do you find that inside of you? Like, where does that come from in you? I know where it comes from you, but where does that come from in you? Like, it's okay. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take a risk.
I don't know. I think it comes from my mom, honestly, to tell you the truth. I've seen that woman go through so much. I've seen her, struggle in life and build all kinds of things and accomplish all kinds of crazy things that I thought, wow, she's the strongest woman I know. And so I think I get it from her, honestly.
Mm,
So,
she,
and I've
mu-
always had a really strong foundation with her as far as like support and like, oh yes, you can do this. She's always been the one that to build you up and be right behind your back, you
oh,
know.
yeah.
And so I think that a lot of that comes from, a lot of that comes from her because she is the strongest like woman that I know. So
Mhm.
it comes from her. Um, and just seeing, the struggles that she's been through and building something from nothing with her own business.
Yeah, like it's because we were like you were blessed to mine was like my dad was that entrepreneurial spirit, my grandpa. So and I had aunts, like I was just telling you earlier, my aunt and different people that and my aunts too, they had their own businesses. But like if you weren't modeled that, because that's where a lot of people, their families have always been entrepreneurs. A lot of the women that I work with, they're I mean not entrepreneurs, they've always been employees. So they're talked down to like, you don't want to be an entrepreneur. And I always laugh at that because I'm like, hang on, you can get laid off of every job. The company can downsize. That is not any more secure to me than doing your own thing. You're just
Absolutely. Doing your own thing is very risky. There's days that you are rich and there's days that you are broke. So it's up and down. But it comes with that. You just have to be ready for that. And it's funny about like the mindset. Um, I mentioned this to my son last week in the car. We were driving and I said, he's only 13. And I said, Ben, are you going to be the boss or is someone going to be the boss of you? We're
yes.
just driving in the car.
Yes.
He said, I'm going to be the boss. I said, okay, I'm just making sure. So do you know what you want to do when you get older? He said, not yet. But I said, but you're going to be the boss? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And I said, okay, good. I know he'll be an entrepreneur. Him and his sister, his middle sister, my older daughter will do something very smart, but she may not be an entrepreneur, but she probably, because she has the book smarts, so she'll be, an attorney or, something very structured. But the other two will be the risk taking entrepreneurs because I see the sales in them, and being an entrepreneur, like the first skill set you have to have is you have to be able to sell. If you can't sell, it's a problem, you
Right?
know?
Yeah,
So,
and you're selling yourself first, right? Like
yeah,
that
absolutely.
confidence. You're reminding yourself, "We can do this. I got this." Like you got to be able to talk yourself. Well, let's go back. So you were working for what you and your husband started. You saw what he was doing, and then you went to work and do the sales for
Started,
the company.
we started the company together. So he did all the operational side of things and I did the sales and things just started growing. And
And what did what exactly like give me a walkthrough of what you would do day to day? Like what did your company what was the solution that you guys provided?
so it was relocation services. So if you're moving from state to state, we would come in and offer you moving services to move your home from, I don't know, Florida to California or
Oh,
wherever you're moving.
but it was
So
residential, not big.
we did some commercial, but mostly it's residential moving is what we do. And we're still in business together till today. We still own that company together. But yeah, we grew that business from, nothing really. No one gave us a bunch of money. When we got married, we were living paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
We could barely pay for our wedding dinner that night, but then we got married. But like we built a business right after, and slowly with like his hard work and my hard work, we transformed and we were doing really well. So,
So great.
um,
How did you guys meet? Because it's so different. Your backgrounds are so different. Where did you guys
so different, just out and about, in our 20s. We were just out partying one night and just happened to meet each other.
Oh,
So,
okay. So he's from America too.
yes, yes.
Okay. Aw. I thought there was maybe some so then okay, so you guys had the moving company. So then go back to 2020, I mean 2003 when you made because you made a bold decision to start your own moving company, right? So
Yes. Well, we started the company together. Him and I started that company.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
So we're
okay.
we're business partners. We're business partners with that company. So we own. I can't take full credit for that because he had a big part to do with a lot of it. So
Well, how did you,
now
like, because you guys were new, like you didn't have that much, but what was like the turning point or the experience that fueled your determination to launch your own thing? That
he came to me and said, but he had the entrepreneurship mindset too and said, "Hey, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I'm going to start my own." I said, "Okay, great. Me too. I'm going to help you. Let's do it." And so that's kind of how it happened. And I worked two jobs for the longest time. So
okay.
it wasn't a pretty picture. It wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to start a business and great and all of a sudden you're making all this money." No. There
Mhm.
was a lot of no vacations, no time off. You're working, 6 to 7 days a week. You're working 10, 12-hour days. Not fun, a lot of stress, having anxiety, ending up, overexhausted. And I worked a full 8-hour job and then would come home and work that other job too until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was many years of that. And then eventually I cut down my hours on my full-time job to a part-time job. And then after that, I did that, I think maybe for 3 to 6 months. And then I said, I just can't do this anymore. I'm too busy with what I'm doing for myself. And if this is really going to take off, I really have to put all my, focus on that company. So that's what I did. We just grew it. It was slowly. It just happened slowly over time.
But that's another golden nugget because I always say, like, where focus goes, energy flows, results show. And it is very difficult to divide your focus because there's something in my experience that when I say I'm all in, I'm burning the ships, as scary as it can be sometimes, right? The payoff is incredible. But I like how you overcame those early struggles. Like you were conservative in your approach to building. Some people, I'm a little bit crazier. I think, okay, I'll eat peanut butter and jelly for longer, but I'm all in. And some of those struggles that like how could you prepare someone and with your experience and your wisdom? Because every early entrepreneur faces those struggles, right? Like what was the moment, like you were saying, I gave it up, but how did you have the courage to give it up? Or I guess it was just exhaustion. You're like, I just can't do it. Because what's the
Well,
moment where it seemed like it was like, oh, I can't.
Well, you get to a point, well, it got to a point where there was a lot of stability. It was like, okay, I had this full-time job that was bringing in and paying the bills. So we obviously had, a stable income. But at the same time, it was building the, Condor slowly into getting it to a point where enough revenue was coming in to say, okay, I don't need to rely on this anymore. I can just focus on this. So there was kind of a financial, tipping point where it was like, okay, if you really want this to go to the next level, you've got to stop. And you see that a lot like on Shark Tank. I don't know if you watch Shark Tank. I've seen all of every episode where you'll have these entrepreneurs who are going in to pitch their business, but they're not 100%
Right.
fully invested in that business. And sharks don't invest because they don't have their full focus. At some point, you have to, get off the first, like I had to get off of the crutch of having a stable income with another job,
Yes.
make the other happen
Yeah.
because it was never going to happen. It was never going to move. I was never going to be able to move forward with it if I did not, you know, take
Yeah.
the risk or we took the risk.
What did that experience teach you about resilience and grit? Like how did you have, the ability to push through? Because like even doing a podcast, I saw the statistic that most podcasts people stop before they even get to the 10th episode. Like they say, I want to do a podcast, and they stop before they even get to episode 10. And I'm always like, well, how? Because I set goals, like so I'm like I'm not stopping till this happens. I'm a little
Yeah,
bit,
you have to.
but what
You
is,
have to.
yeah, like, how do you push through? Like, what was your secret sauce for pushing through?
Well, I think that I knew that, look, success is always, I won't allow things to fail. So you have to have that mindset.
Yeah.
So if you want to build a successful podcast, you have to have the mindset that your podcast will not fail.
Yes. Yeah.
So regardless of what statistics say, that you're not going to be that statistic. So whether you improve your own hosting, you know,
Yeah. Or our reach, our
yeah,
demographic.
or the people that you're bringing on to the show, so like you figure out what is it that I'm not doing right? What is it that I need to fix? And having set goals for yourself, that failure is not an option. So the minute, and I've said this before in, previous podcasts, the minute that you have a secondary,
Option.
plan or option, your option A is already failed.
Exactly.
You cannot have another option. The option is that this will work. So when people fail, they fail for certain reasons, I believe. And I know I've failed in things that I've done, and I learn from my mistakes on a regular basis. It's just like you have to be able to recognize what you've done wrong and then fix it. So in anything. So when businesses fail, they fail because they've done something wrong. Well, if you can't recognize what the issue is to fix the issue, then you will fail.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to be versatile to change and improvements and all of that. So
Well, and I like where you said earlier, like you knew your strength was sales. If you can't do sales, you can't. And I've trained so many sales teams like over my career and around the world. And I'm like, if I just sometimes people are afraid of sales, right? I'm like, okay, change the word sales and say educate, listen and educate, because you're listening to what is their challenge. You're helping them get clarity around what their challenge is so you can be the solution for their challenge. And I think, but when you're selling yourself, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur now, right? You have got to be the best at sales for me, in my experience, that keeping yourself in the mindset of I'm going to be the best. You have to keep selling yourself every single day. And I like what you said, because if education is part of sales, then you have to sit there and look like, how can I get better? But then when you're working in it and then you are getting better, like what's that moment for you where it becomes clear that success is on the horizon? Like, was there a pivotal moment or a decision that like changed the trajectory of your company? Or was it just the continual, or did you like, what was your aha moment when you're like, okay, this is coming to life?
yeah. Well, I think it's continual. I think that there's always ups and down in business. Like I've been in business with Condor for 21 years. It's never been a constant, going, constant up. There's been ups and there's been downs and there's been ups and there's been down. There's challenges every single day. And I think one skill set that every entrepreneur should have is being able to be a problem solver. You have to be able to solve problems. There are problems every day. Every day there's different problems, whether it be operational problems, problems with clients, problems with this, or problems with, whatever. There's problems every day. You have to be able to take problems and find solutions. And you'd mentioned this earlier and something that you said, and it was about people complaining. And so I had a sign in my office for the longest time, and it says, no complaints, because I was not happy with employees that would walk in complaining. And it says no complaints, only solutions.
Yes.
So if you're going to complain about whatever that you think that the company that you're working for is, don't come to me with a complaint without a solution. If you want to, don't even bother walking in the door.
Yeah.
So if come in and say, hey, Nisrine, like we're doing this and it's not working. I think we really should try to do this instead, because this is why this would work versus what we're doing. This doesn't work. Then I will listen to you all day long. But if you're going to come in and critique and give me negativity, I'm going to throw you out of my office. I won't even give you 2 minutes. So I'll throw you out as fast as you walked in the door, because that's not the right mindset to have. Even as an employee, when you should be coming in, you should come in with a solution, because that's what I've hired you for, to work for me and to bring in solutions to problems and fix, obviously like it's a team effort. So, but I'm all really big about no complaining. If you're going to complain, bring a solution with it. Don't complain with no solution.
I used to have that in my own house. I would tell the kids, like if they'd say, I'm thirsty, I'm like, is that a complaint or a request? And they're like, may I please have a drink? I said, oh, I'm sorry. We don't offer drinks here. What is it that you want exactly? Because when you tell me exactly what you want, you will get it. May I please have a drink of water with ice? Yeah. Now you're telling me what you want and I can provide it. That's how
Yes. Yes. It's the same thing in running a business. It's like the exact same thing. So, building businesses are not easy. It's definitely, challenging. There's a lot of challenges every day. It's a beautiful picture. Lots of stress comes with it too. So,
But no, I love that. Share a story. Share a story of because I thank you for being real, because we don't always want that. I like, that sign, I want to see beneath your beautiful. I say that. I love this because a lot of times people look at, you know, business owners and women that own business and they're like, oh, I could never be like you. She has it all together. Look at Nisrine. She comes in, she's so confident, she's glowy with all those beautiful locks and her smile. And she doesn't have any sweat breaking out. But can you share with the girls that are, you know, maybe are not believing they can, like, what was a story that, like, of a failure maybe, or like a massive challenge that really tested you, or you're like, oh,
Oh, oh yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest, this is, back when the recession happened and the housing market crashed, the biggest, I think probably the biggest and one of the hardest times, for us as a business, at that time, we were financially doing really, really well. Um, and we lost pretty much everything,
mm,
almost lost our business, almost, we had to literally put everything that we had back into the company, every to the last penny,
wow.
and struggled to build it back up. And so that's what I, when I mentioned earlier, there's always going to be ups and downs, because that's the reality of life, is
Mhm.
everything's not always that. There's a lot of downs, but you always have to have the positive, you know, hope that things will go back up. Everything will not always. Sometimes things are outside of your control. For
Yeah.
example, right now we're facing, yes, the Fed's just dropped interest rates, but this past year for us, has probably been slower in business because of the economy as we are right now, inflation being so high. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about, well, we hear about inflation, but we're really in a financial recession. Housing market's really down.
Yeah.
So a lot of businesses are struggling with that right now. And so there are always challenges that happen that sometimes are outside of your control. So no matter how well, like for example, for the moving company, um, no matter how well we sell, but if people are not buying homes and moving because interest rates are too high and inflation is so high right now, you can't, but you don't get what your money's worth in
Mhm.
buying a house. You're going to pay more you know, for a house today than you would have a few years ago. So, sometimes things happen that are outside of your control, but you have to know that those will eventually turn. So you just have to stay on your A game.
And how do you tell yourself, like, how do you recover from that emotionally and professionally? Because, you know, how did that experience like shape your future decisions? Like, did it somehow shift how you were going to do business in the, you know, in the future? Like, did you have to lay people off? Did you have to like, because you know, people don't always talk about that. Like, even having those conversations with people you love, the team that's helped you get there.
Yeah. One thing like with us is that we've always kept our employees to bare minimum. We've never really overstaffed. So that way we've always kept our staff very minimal. So that way we weren't ever having to lay off people. How I handle that is I don't get paid, my employees get paid, So there's times that happens, and that's kind of how I deal with that. And just proper financial planning. So that way when you do have you know, business is down, you are financially prepared for things like that happen, that when you are up in your highs, you're not buying yachts and, overspending,
Yeah.
overspending your budget, and, still keeping things to a modest living. So that way, when you do have, things that go down, and obviously like diversifying. So that's kind of how I started my second company, with diversifying my financial portfolio and building another business. And that came with when I was doing really well. I decided, you know what, I'm going to diversify and get into another business. And that's when I started Movers Dispatch Board a couple of years ago, which I got into software. Went from like the moving business, which I still, am part owner there, and started this whole other company. So
Let's talk about that because that's like niche market success. Like, I love how you're building a company in a niche market. So talk a little bit about that, because we say it on Target for Success, or or some of our courses, we're like, the tighter the niche, the quicker you get rich, because you're really narrowing down, right? There's a plethora of things you can do. I always tell people you can make money, but where are you going to have fun? Like, what sparks your joy in the day so you can keep it going when things are difficult because it's something that you love. So
yes,
how did you niche it? So you have the moving company, and then you niched
yes,
into the software of the logistics or the movies.
yes, yes. So I just saw a need for what I had developed many years ago, and thought, why didn't this exist already? Like, why hasn't no one done this? And I sat on the idea for a really long time. And I talked about it and talked about it. And then I decided to go through with it. And I thought, you know what? Enough talking. Like, it's time to actually do this.
Just
I
how long is long, huh? Because that's kind of big. How long?
I sat on the idea for a few years. I had the idea for several years, you know, and I just kind of sat on it. And then finally I thought, okay, well, I have the funds to do it. I was in a good place financially and decided that in this aspect of it is different than Condor, because when we started Condor, I had no money. With Movers Dispatch Board, I self-funded the project. Obviously, I had to, set up a development team
Yeah.
to develop. That wasn't something I did on my own. But I was the creator behind the whole platform. I didn't go with like cookie cutter platform. This has been developed and designed by me.
Wow.
And so every function and feature on the software platform has all been something that I designed myself. So
What
the
was
idea
the
came from the need of like knowing that we needed something like this in our industry. So
Okay, good. Because I was like, what was the problem that you solved? Like, what was the problem that
yes.
you
Okay, so let me tell you the problem. If you're, and I'm sure your listeners and yourself have heard of like Atlas, Mayflower, United Moving, the big names in the moving industry. They'd be like, the Subways and McDonald's of the moving industry, the
Okay.
big franchises. Okay. So when you're a moving company and you're an agent for these movers, for these van lines, when you interline loads, which means that if you're exchanging loads between one company to the next, you can only haul within each other, within your own network. So simplify, what state are you in?
Florida.
Okay, cool. All right. So Florida, I'm in Texas. Let's say you own a moving company in Florida. I'm in Texas. I've got clients that I'm delivering to Florida. I get them on my semi, deliver them to Florida. All right. What do I bring back? I just delivered a full truck to Florida. Now I have nothing to come back home.
Okay.
So what Movers Dispatch Board does is it puts and our clients are privately owned. They're not part of the van lines. Okay.
Okay.
So it would put your private moving company in touch with mine, to where if you have loads that you're wanting to ship to Texas without you running your own truck, we could haul them for you. It's a
Wow.
B2B platform that connects privately owned moving companies, moving brokers, and carriers like trucking companies that are licensed to haul household goods. So it puts them together on a load board where they're able to exchange loads. Or if they have loads, for example, you say you pick up a client and it's a small shipment that fills up a quarter of a truck. You will more than likely will not run a quarter of a truck full to run a shipment.
All the way.
You're going to lose money if you do that. So by the time you pay for fuel, your drivers, your labor, you're losing money if the truck's not full. So you can post it on the load board, and now a carrier that's in the area that's licensed to haul household goods sees the load on there, can potentially request it from you and haul it for you, and then you just pay them for that service. So basically, it's kind of contracting each other out in the
Yeah.
transportation industry. It's called interlining, and so you're able to interline with each other. And so we're adding a couple of more features on the board this month that we'll be releasing before end of the month. We're adding auto transport onto our load board, as
Oh,
well as the mobile storage containers.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to start working on some amazing automations, and we're implementing before 2025. We'll be implementing some AI. So I'm super excited about all that because I'm kind of a technology nerd. So
Yeah.
I
You're
love technology.
I
So
love it. I've been in software for a long, long time. It's my passion, one of my passions. So it's exciting. And the concept that you've created, my mom was a truck driver for like 10 years.
I love that.
Yeah, so she used to drive for Schneider, she's like one of
Oh
the
yeah, of course I know who Schneider is. Yeah.
and so I knew like a little bit, like she would always say, I have to pick up this load, I have to pick up that load. And she was
Yeah.
always a truck driver all the way across country. And and then I've grown a lot of different companies. And and when I was growing a fashion company out in LA, we had to like organize because we'd get big shipments from Asia and textiles and different things like
Yeah.
that. And you want to fill up the whole container, but sometimes we didn't need a whole container to the US. We didn't only need part of that, and then the other part we were sending to Europe. So you'd like negotiate with other people that were bringing stuff over. Like
Yes.
you don't want to like have chickens in with Texas. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. We do the same. That's kind of what we do on our load board. There are other load boards out there, but they're not designed for the moving and storage business. This is designed for the moving and storage. Our clients are household movers. So I've designed the platform for our,
Wow.
you know, it would have been hard to design or like implement if you hadn't been in the industry, because you wouldn't have known that this was needed. So you couldn't have just been like a, software nerd and realized, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to develop, this. So
Yeah, it's so cool. No, we love taking like people like you and with our developers and putting, we're kind of like, I guess we're what you do for moving, we do for companies that need proprietary software or they want to develop a SaaS model like you have or whatever. So we have the development teams to help small and scale ups, right? So that's one part of where we have like tech end of it as well. So it's so fun. So this is exciting though, but so you saw the need and you're like, we need a way to connect people on this. And so you're going to have automotive. Now you're moving from household goods to automotive. What about livestock? Do you do any agricultural stuff?
no, we're designed just for household goods.
Okay.
We did add auto, which just hasn't released on there. It'll be out there before end of the month. I haven't released the auto part, or not anything other than those that I've mentioned right now, because really our main focus is just to focus on household movers. I'm really kind of building a platform for moving companies and really want to focus on movers only.
So are you looking, like would owner operators reach out to you more?
As long as they're licensed to haul household goods, yes. As long as they are, they can be on our load board, and they just have to have the right licensing. And obviously, like, they have to know the industry with the service, unless they're doing like a container, the mobile storage container moves, or the autos. We added autos on there because owning a moving company, I know that a lot of our clients were looking to transport a car as well. So this would give our moving company clients a way to dispatch autos as well.
Yeah, just send the car with the goods and we'll fly out with the goods in the dock.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, who wants to drive from Florida out to California?
No, absolutely not.
That is so cool. I love that you made that strategic decision based on the need and you're just breaking through these barriers. I love it. I love this. I love this so much. But sometimes, there is a lonely road to leadership. I think like you have to really have like a high vibe tribe. That's why I love what we do this with the women. So it's like sometimes you want to bounce ideas off each other, because a lot of entrepreneurs speak like, oh, sometimes it's lonely because when I try to tell my family what I'm doing, they just kind of glaze over and they're like, so where are those moments? Like are there moments when you feel isolated or you like question your direction? Like where do you find that strength to continue with confidence?
I think like, someone has asked me that question before. I do a lot of reading, and I talk to other entrepreneurs, mostly within my own family. My two sisters are entrepreneurs as well.
That's such a
so I usually get a lot of, conversations in with them. And then I have a couple of other people that I talk to that are entrepreneurs themselves. So I bounce that energy off of them. They bounce their energy off me and ideas, but I also do a lot of reading. Well, I call it reading, but it's actually audibles. I listen to a lot of motivational books, and I listen to a lot of business books. And I get a lot of my motivation from that as well, because, people tell me I motivate them all the time. And it's funny. I don't see it, but, just because it's yourself, right?
Yep.
But I also need motivating myself too, to get me going and to get, to keep me on target with my goals. But most of it happens just conversating with the close circle of people that I know that are entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's difficult because I, may talk to a girlfriend who doesn't understand the entrepreneurship side of things or what I do. So I will have those conversations with that person. I typically will look for someone who is an entrepreneur themselves, building a brand, building a business their own, or have a business of their own. And those are the people that you can really relate to, because they're doing the same thing that you're doing. And every one of them works hard. They're all working hard. None of them are just working 3-4 hours a day, all day. I'm like, That's my favorite thing. People would say, "Oh, I want to own my own business so I could just golf all day and not work." And I'm like, really? What world do you live in?
Well, the thing is, like, what advice do you have for them? Because I always say, but when you're working on your own thing, you do get more energized. It may be longer hours sometimes as you're growing, right? But I always feel energized because it's your thing.
Yes. Absolutely. I, I do have cutoffs. I will take, for example, I'm really big on fitness, so I work out every day. So people don't understand it sometimes. They're like, oh my God, you're obsessed. But it's not really so much about obsession. It's more about the mental relaxation of just breaking away from your day to day and having that time alone where you're doing nothing but really just focusing on yourself and your health and your wellness. And whatever that may be, whether it be CrossFit, whether it be running, boxing, I've done all kinds of crazy things. So whatever that may be, that's that 1 hour or 45 minutes of the day or hour and a half of the day that you're taking for yourself. And then I come back to, the reality of like, okay, now I'm going to be a mom for a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to maybe getting on my laptop for a couple of hours. But the biggest like motivation is just seeing progress.
Here,
Once I hit on our load board, we've hit 475 active subscribers. We've onboarded over 600 companies.
woo!
Even though the financial gains aren't there right now, like that I would like it to be where I'm at with Movers Dispatch Board. But to me, one thing I know is that I've proven a need
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's a need that actually people are interested in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to onboard that many people.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, now I look back and reflect on what do my users need? What do they want? What are the tools that they need to help operate their businesses? And how can I provide that to them and make, internal um, fixes or changes or developments? And so, um, and I talk to all of my subscribers. I call them personally and I welcome them on board. And I'm like, if you need anything, let me know. And some people are like, oh my gosh, we can't believe you're the person who actually called. And I said, yeah, well, I'm still in the startup phase. I'm still very hands-on. I'm in the startup phase and I want to meet my subscribers. I want to talk to them. I want to know what they're looking for, what they need, because that kind of helps me decide and know what to do and how to take Movers Dispatch Board to the next level. What are they looking for? And how can I improve what I'm providing?
I have a quick question around that because this is really cool. We had a race car driver on here before, and she was
I
really
saw her podcast.
isn't she great? I love Heather. And that's what I was thinking of you a little bit because I'm like, this is really a male dominated industry. I know, like, even when my mom was driving, there weren't many women like picking up and taking those. So I was curious, like, what the breakdown was. Like, the movie and trucking industry are known for being male dominated. So I was just curious, like, if you have a story where, like, being a woman presented any kind of barrier or a challenge, or, are there a lot of women in this industry?
There
Like,
are, yeah, there are a lot of women in the trucking industry.
oh,
Obviously,
wonderful.
it is male dominated. I have had some guys here or there comments to me like, I had a guy who loaded a truck one time and thought I didn't know how to calculate cubic footage, which is really silly. It's like, okay, you don't know who you're messing with right now. I've had people, make comments here or there on the software side, about, trucking and women, but that's very rare. And
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing is that, like, knowing and being confident of what you're selling and what you're providing, what you're doing. And so for me, being a woman has never really been a challenge. If I look at it as ignorance, if someone is going to be so ignorant to try to make you feel less of a person or take away from your credibility because you're a female, they're ignorant.
Mhm.
So, so to me, it's like, I laugh at that kind of stuff. Like,
There you go.
you
There you go, girl. That's what I was.
like the insecurity of that person. But, to me, no. Are
Yeah.
there things that, certain people can do better? Yeah, but I don't really think that's gender specific. Maybe, I'm not, physically as strong as some men, but, whatever. I mean, this is not a weightlifting competition.
With the little lift things, and we have a little.
Have things that we're good at and good things that there's some things that I'm not the best at. And I know what those are and I work on those things. So, but yeah, I think, being confident, being
Mm.
confident as a woman, I think is the biggest and most important. Don't use that as a crutch. Like, oh, poor me, I'm a woman. No, No.
That's good advice. So when women are out, listen in, girls. If you're out there and you're in a male-dominated field, listen to this advice. Tell us right now, what would you say to
Know your stuff. Know your stuff. Don't let anyone intimidate you. Know what you're providing, know what you're selling, know what, who you are and what you stand, and being confident with what who you are as a person. Just in general, that, being a woman is not a reason for someone not to take you seriously. That's
right?
just silliness. Laugh at it. I just laugh when someone
Great
when
job.
someone says things. I just laugh about it, like, oh, huh, that's really cute.
So those are the lessons that you learn through this power of persistence. It's just ignorance. We forgive them. They know not what they do. We laugh at it and move on, right? We become
Yes.
victorious. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, coming back to Movers Dispatch Board, I just, even that's a great name. Like, you're dispatching. It was, because sometimes finding the company name with the function, you did such a great job. Because sometimes the name doesn't always say what it does. So that's a really
Yeah.
strong name that I
Biggest
really,
mistake a lot of business owners make, you know?
yes.
So, huge mistake business owners make. They come up with these like really silly names that mean nothing to do with their business. And from a marketing standpoint and SEO and people finding you, that's the biggest mistake that someone could make. So if
Mhm.
you're really trying to be direct with a business or brand that you're building, unless you're coming in with like a huge marketing budget where you're going to get your name out there, for some like big brands that are out there, then if you're starting off small and you don't have a big budget, your name better be very relevant to what you do and what service you provide. Because guess what happens when people go to, any of the big search engines looking you up? If your name's not relevant to what you do, it's just that much harder to rank higher in SEO. And so a lot of people have found us organically just on their own. I have a very, 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 very small budget for marketing. I
Mhm.
don't put a lot of money into marketing. So typically it's all anything that's almost free.
Yeah,
So
it's smart.
for the load board, it's almost basically very, very, very small budget.
Well, yeah, I thought that was a great name. I thought this girl did really good because that's the space that we live in. Like I said, I was like, oh, good name. Because that's
Yes.
what you do. And Movers Dispatch Board seems like it was born out of your experience, born out of understanding. But what are the industry's pain points that you're like, or your thought that while you're there and you're like, there has to be a better way. Like, how do you get to more people to find you? Like, what's one way that we can help, get the frustration? We don't want it, frustration is maybe a strong word, but that limited budget of marketing to get people on your platform. Like, who are people that we could say, oh, do you know about Members Dispatch Board, right? Like, who should we share this with?
Well, our target client is anyone who owns a moving company. So moving companies across the US. Those are our clients. And the nice thing about, with me is I can relate to the moving company owners because I am a moving company owner as well. So it's very relevant to currently what I do as well. So that's made it really nice and easy. But our clients are moving company owners. So anyone who owns a moving company out in the US, that's who our client base is.
All right. So anyone, you guys hear that? If you own a moving company, they're going to just go to moversdispatchboard.com.
Yeah, that's it.
The links down here in the description too, and link back to her. But I always want to know, like, who's your audience, who can use your service.
Yeah.
So it's the moving companies, not individuals that are looking for movers, because like individuals.
No, we're a B2B platform. So our clients are going to be other moving companies. We're not B2C. So if you are moving, don't go to Movers Dispatch Board. So that's not going to help you out any at all. We're a B2B platform, basically a tool for moving company owners out in the US to help them operate their trucks and logistically, their operations.
I'm just curious because I have no idea how many moving companies. Do you have an idea of like how many moving companies there are across the US?
Yes. Yeah. In the US, there's over 16,000 moving companies in the US. And not a lot of,
Moving companies.
yes. And so, but some of them don't do interstate. Some of them are just local. Some of them may
Mm,
be just local moving companies. Some of them do interstate, and then some of them are part of the national van lines. That national van lines, due to their interlining agreements with their agent or their van line, they're typically not a client of ours because of how they're contracts, right? Yeah.
Gotcha. So you exercise, you're a mom, you run two companies right now, one which you showed your relationship skills because it's with your husband. So you guys
Yeah.
maintain a friendship and a business together. Like you're like superhuman, right? So you're striking this balance. So a driven entrepreneur, but how do you find the balance between like all these ambitions? Because I remember like when I had little kids and I would pray to God, I'm like, why am I not satisfied just being a stay-at-home mom? Like I was just built different and I would feel almost guilty. Like I want to just love and just be here only with these babies. And my mind wouldn't stop. I would keep thinking how I could build companies. So how do you ever run into that? How do you balance these ambitions with your family life and keeping from burning out? Navigating.
Well, luckily, oh, sorry about that. Luckily, my kids are kind of older now, so it's easier now that they're older that I'm not having to juggle that as much. But when they were younger, it was really difficult because obviously like trying to be a mom and but my ex-husband has always been a great dad and always been super involved with the kids and helping out with that. So that was never really an issue. So we always kind of had the good balance as far as like making sure that our kids were, properly taken care of. I still take time off to make sure I make all of my kids' games. I don't miss a game. I don't miss a football game. I don't miss a basketball game.
Yeah.
I don't miss anything, soccer. I don't miss any of that stuff. Like that stuff's really important. As my first one has gone off to college, and now with the other two that are still left, they're older, but they're, one's in high school and the other one's last year in junior high. It's like, okay, now I really don't miss because that time goes by so fast. It just happens so fast. And now when the first one went off to college, I'm like, oh, I think I want to adopt a little baby. I'm not really doing that. But I'm kidding. I'm not doing that. But they grow up so fast, and it's like you really have to kind of, try to balance that out. And I don't know if I would have ever been a housewife. I've never been a housewife the whole time, but I've always done the house, done house things, obviously, like, cook and make dinner for the kids and things like that. But I don't really know what that life would be like. I don't know. I have no idea. I've always been very ambitious about building and becoming successful. And like I said, it all comes back from my mom and seeing her be so ambitious and working hard to build things up. And so I think it's never really been part of my chemistry to
I
just
understand.
nice. I wish I could bake. Baking cookies would be kind of fun for like maybe a day.
Oh yeah, I know. I wish I could. My kids, my kids wish I could cook. Abram's like, Mom, could you make me a peanut butter and jelly today? I was like, oh,
Sure, I got this. No, that's easy.
right. Oh my gosh, so sweet. I've tried. It's not for lack of trying. I just burn a lot. So for all our entrepreneurs that are listening, you've been so amazing today in your sharing. But like sometimes they're struggling and and they're discouraged. How many times have you just like, oh, maybe I should just go get a job or whatever? I hear them sometimes because it can be daunting. What's one piece of advice that you'd offer them, like to stay motivated or on track? Like, do you have a personal mantra or a belief that keeps you moving forward in those difficult times?
Well, like I told you earlier, just you have to take the failure mindset out.
Mm-hmm.
That
Okay.
can't be an
Yeah.
option. So if failure is an option for you, then get a job, you know?
Yeah.
But failure can't be an option. You have to really remember that you cannot give up. It is going to be hard. It's not easy. It's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are just not cut out to be entrepreneurs. That's just the reality of it. But if you really are wanting to be an entrepreneur, there's nothing that says that you can't do it. But you have to be ready for the struggles. You have to be ready to give up some extra time of maybe being lazy on the sofa watching TV, and
Yeah.
that you're going to actually be on your laptop working and not watching TV, or maybe working while you watch TV. But like you're going to have to sacrifice, and you have to be ready for that. So nothing great comes easy, unless you're just super lucky, and most of us are not. So most of us are not winning the lottery. And I play lottery not all the time, but when I get only a billion, because I'm greedy. I don't want a million. I only want a billion. So,
So Well, when you reflect on everything you've built, though, because yes, you face those struggles, you balance, you exercise, you do all these things. You're running two businesses now, but so when you reflect on everything you've done, what are you most proud of? Like, because it is a sacrifice, but then when you look back, like, what are you most proud of after you've done all of that?
Hmm. I think I'm most proud of like being able to start something with Condor from nothing, having a business for 21 years.
Yeah.
And when I tell people 21 years, like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm old now, but I was 20s. I was 23. We were not out partying. We were out building a business, working hard. So I started working hard, even before my 20s. Growing up, I was ripping out stitches and making things at my mom's shop or my dad's. But like working hard and like starting, it's been a long journey, and being able to look back and say, I've been in business for 21 years with its ups and downs. Fail- Failures happen, you know, not every client's sometimes happy. I've had happy
Mhm.
clients, unhappy clients, like it's just part of the game. It's part of being in business. That's what happens. So just being able to say, hey, I've been in business for 21 years. There are very few people that can say they started a company 21 years ago and they're still in business, right? Something they
Yeah.
started in their 20s. And then I'm most proud of like being able to self-fund Movers Dispatch Board, build Movers Dispatch Board, and have people on a regular basis that I'm talking to trying to sell the product tell me they want to invest in what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's, I'm happy that I've been able to onboard as many people as I have.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Huge.
So for me, it's just like even though the financial part of it's not there yet, but it's going to be there. It will be there because I will make sure that it happens. I'm too far into an investment of time and money and dedication to something that I won't allow to fail.
Oh,
So,
I love it.
so I think that's kind of, the 21 years in business I'm very proud of, and the self-starting of a whole nother venture, 2 years ago, of something that's completely new for me, which is in software, the SaaS. And that's like, I'm very, very happy with that. And I've set a really good role model for my kids. And I think that's the biggest person that I try to like impress every day is my children.
Yes, yes. That was so cool because I was just gonna say, I was thinking like, okay, what do you hope will be that lasting impact of your work, especially like for your children or for future women, leaders, like because they'll be standing on your shoulders, right? It's like this is a woman-owned company. And I think for little girls, we need to see the women in different industries. And I love how women are taking it and running now, because it wasn't always the case for us. So I really love that you have that inspiration to look up to. Like, do you go to career days at your kid's school or things like that? It's like, wow, she owns the company.
No, because I'm so casual. I just usually just walk around like just no, I'm typically not like gloating or anything about, but I do like my daughters when their boyfriends would come over, I would sit there and talk business to them and just like start talking to them and see like where they're at and
Yes, yes.
question them. And so
Love
they're like, wow. And
questioning them.
when my daughter graduated high school, her and her boyfriend, so he interned for me in the summer. And let me tell you, this kid was probably, I was so impressed with him, and I liked him before when I knew him, but then I hired him to come work for me, and I told my daughter, I said, he's going somewhere in life. I can already see it
Yeah.
because he's going to business school, and I said, I already see it. Like this kid's going to be an entrepreneur. Like he came in and just graduated from high school, never really had a real job working at an office. And I put him down and he worked for Movers Dispatch Board, and I had him do, customer success type calls and people who had onboarded and people who were already onboarded just to kind of see how things were going. And this kid was a natural, like he just had it. And I was just like, wow, like you can see it.
You can see it.
You can see who has it and who doesn't. And it's typically the people that have it are the people that have both book smarts and world street smarts, that have
Mhm.
kind of a bunch of a good combination of both. Because as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to hustle and you really have to be able to really make things happen
Yep.
and connect with people.
Yes.
Otherwise, no one's going to listen to you. And so that's really honestly like either some people have it or they just don't.
Yeah. Well, that's a perspective shift, and that's in anything. I know my mom was like, "Just tell me what to do," because I had my mom work for me too. My dad worked for me for a little bit too. Totally different, but and I remember my mom just saying, "Amy, just tell me. I don't like to think about it. I like you to just tell me what to do." And I'm like, my mom was not an entrepreneur at all. She liked to do her job and be done. I don't want to really think about it. But here's the perspective shift. What's one question that someone has asked you that's really made you rethink your perspective, right? Like whether it was in business or leadership or just in life in general, what's a question that like stopped you in your tracks and made you go,
That's a good one. You know, I don't know if anyone's really asking me anything that I had a really hard time answering other than this question that you're asking me right now, because I think it just kind of varies. I don't know. I can't really think of one specific situation where I was like, wait, I can't answer this question.
well, they were
So,
like, for example, they said, like one of our podcast guests, she was really cute. She's like, someone said, "Who are you doing this for?" And she had to pause and like ask him, like, "Am I doing this for myself or other people?" And so that question like changed her. Like, was there someone in life that said, "Why do you want to build your own business?" Or, like, what do you want to do with your life? Did you ever have one of those questions that made you go, hmm, yeah, good question?
no, not really. Not that I can, not time, not a time that I can really think about that where it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I not really. I think the most thing is that I find most humbling, and sometimes that makes me kind of like, oh, okay, when people tell me that I motivate them.
Aw.
And whether that be in like, work, business, personal levels, because I'm always trying to uplift and help people be their best with like friends and people that I know. I'm always willing to kind of help people out. And so when people tell me that I motivate them and they look up to me, that's always like, oh, really? Like, that's just so amazing. I love that I can do that for people. And it's kind of a natural thing. It's not like I'm trying to. So when people say it to me, it's kind of humbling because it's like, okay, that makes me feel really good because that I can actually help someone with not even really knowing that I'm like trying to do it. It just naturally happens.
Yeah,
So,
that's a whole nother definition of success. When just you by being, just you being you is uplifting, inspiring, just you pouring love in them. So for all the women out there, let's really bring it to the girls. They're looking to grow their own business. What's one powerful question that they should ask themselves so that they'll know, so that they know how to be like on target for success? Like what should they ask themselves if they're thinking about getting into business?
well, I think having a set goal, you
Mm,
have to have goals. And I'm not just saying like, okay, I want to be rich. That's really not a goal, right? But a
yes.
goal would be I want to have $200,000 in my savings account by end of this year, or set like real firm goals, because rich is like, okay, are you rich with a dollar or a million? You know? So having really like precise goals, and then how are you going to achieve them? What is the roadmap to achieving that goal? It's nice to be a dreamer because we all dream. We dream about, living on the beach but how are you going to live on the beach, and what is that roadmap? What have you done to reach the beach? And how are you building that? Do you have a savings account on the side that you're putting your down payment money away? Are you saving up to pay cash for it? So I think that when you want to, for all the female listeners out there, is that have a goal, but have a roadmap. Now, here's the thing. Your roadmap can change and it can alter. So just because you wrote it out initially and said, this is how I'm going to get there, doesn't mean that, during your journey along the way, you're like, oh, wait, this isn't the right path. I need to turn, in a different direction here to get there. But having real goals and not dreams, because dreams, we all dream of like, I dreamed to, have a Ferrari one day, which I don't, but, I don't care about Ferraris, but, you know, but just having like a dream or a goal with how you're going to get there.
the how. You're the first person that said the how. Actually, in all of my guests, and I like that. A lot of people say why, but they don't bring in the how. And I really like that. Have your how ready. That's good.
Yeah, because, how are you going to get there? What is your plan?
Mm-hmm.
And, stay motivated and find your motivation through people who are doing the things that you want to do. Someone gave me the best advice, and it was, don't ask for advice from people that you don't aspire to be like. And I thought, wow, wait a minute. That made me really think.
There you go.
So don't talk to someone about a relationship that doesn't have a good relationship themselves. If you're trying to get relationship advice, you don't want to talk to someone who's been married 5 times, so they might not be the best person to give you advice on that. Maybe find the couple that's been married for 30 and get advice from them. You want to be an entrepreneur, don't talk to the cashier at the local grocery store, because obviously this person doesn't know anything about being an entrepreneur themselves, because if they did, they would not be doing, that job, which
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that job. It's, we all have to, everyone's got to do something in this world. So, find your motivation, find the people that are going to motivate you and help you get there. And it may not be people you personally know. Well, start reading or listening to books and, expand your knowledge. And that right there, audibles don't cost that much. They're very inexpensive. So you can, and you don't have to have a college degree to be an entrepreneur. To start up a business, you don't have to be a college graduate. You could be, I know a lot of high school graduates that have successful businesses. So
Yeah.
I'm not ditching on going to college. That's great. Everyone, I mean, I went to college, but it's not, if you're trying to build a business, you're usually okay with maybe not having a college degree.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. And just put your goals down, your house. Is there anything, what parting words would you like to leave us with? Is there anything like wham that just wants to wow and come out of your brain?
I think what I would like to kind of leave everyone with is not to give up on your goals. Do
Yeah.
not give up on your goals. Just keep working hard, and there will be bumps across, along the way, and you're just going to have to deal with them, but do not give up on your goals, because anything is possible. With the right amount of work and dedication, you can achieve anything.
Thank you so much. So many good golden nuggets here. And I really, really, really can't think, another way that people can stay motivated is to turn into the On Target for Success podcast and listen to
Yes.
amazing
Yes.
women, inspiring. They're out there doing it. So if you want to learn how to do it, you just turn into people like this in the members board and all.
I'm on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn. So for anyone who needs, a little bit of motivation, if you want to DM me on LinkedIn, I do respond to everybody. So if anyone's needing to reach out for any kind of questions or anything, and you're needing some direction about, something that maybe I can help you with, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and send me a DM there.
And we'll even put your LinkedIn, we can put your LinkedIn profile link right into the description if you like. So
yeah, absolutely.
But check out her movers dispatch board. Actually, your website was really cute, like who you are and the dream and everything like that. I really liked the way it was all laid out. It was really, really awesome. So thank you again. And stay tuned in. Remember to, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and to share it with all the amazing women out there. And if you know any amazing women that are entrepreneurs and would like to share their story, connect us right up. All right, you guys, thank you so much, and look forward to another great episode. On Target for Success podcast empowers women by sharing real, raw, and inspiring stories of perseverance, transformation, and achievement. Our mission is to highlight the journeys of successful women from all walks of life, showcasing their challenges, their victories, and to help our listeners like you unlock their potential. We believe that every single woman has a unique story worth sharing. And through this platform, we aim to uplift, educate, and inspire women worldwide to know that it is your birthright to reach your highest potential. And we so believe in you, and we love you, and we thank you for tuning in. But just know that you can do what every single woman on this show is doing as well.